From the high mountains to big walls to trad, sport and bouldering, climbing is all about problem solving.
Make the whole trail ourselves. We have to figure out the route. There's definitely bigger risk, but our chances.
So I have this great idea.
And today's story is about how Parisian climbers, when solving their mountaineering problem, created a new style of climbing.
And maybe this new style of climbing, surprisingly, if it's less modern day alpine climbing and more indoor gym bouldering.
Yeah, exactly. But this story actually starts earlier in the 1940s when
we did have some problems.
Yes, I know, but not that. This story starts earlier when climbers first started visiting the forest of Fontainebleau. In the early 1900s, climbing was now synonymous with mountaineering, and Parisian mountaineers needed a way to train for alpine trips. But the closest thing they had to local mountains was the forest of Fontainebleau. Okay, no doubt that is going to wilt throughout recording. Early mountaineering clubs made the obvious choice and used the largest rock in the forest, Le Dame Joanne, as a place to train technical climbing and rope work. Then in 1913, a young Jacques de Lépinier climbed it by a new route of record difficulty and ropeless. He was also busy elsewhere in the forest. At Cuvier-Rampart, he was executing fantastic jumps between boulders. And while I don't know the exact leaps he made, this is the same man that while on the train back to Paris would climb out of the window of the carriage, over the roof, and back in the window on the other side. So I assume some of these jumps were probably quite bold. While it's easy to see the applicability of climbing on the largest rock around, it was actually Lépinier's jumps that would become part of Fontainebleau's first circuit, and thus the beginning of the forest as a true alpine training ground. In 1947, Fred Bernic created two loops from the summit of Rocheux du Rampart. La Rouge and La Jaune traversed the maze of boulders via down climbs, traverses, jumps, up slabs and cracks. For many years, and without seeing it as anything other than a game, the climbers of Blois occasionally performed the Traversée de Cuvier. This traverse was a little short, hence the idea first of all to lengthen it, then to create a real circuit across the massif using most of the classic routes. It was with the intention of making it less of a game than a high mountain training course that the Circuit du Rampart was created. The rules of the game require that the climber never sets foot on the ground, but progresses continually on the blocks of rock or crosses in one leap, the space which separates them, sometimes at a height sufficient to constitute an exercise in precision, and, for beginners, a test of will. The length and complexity of the route made signage necessary. This signage came in the form of little red and yellow dots and arrows painted on the rock. This style of marking will now be very familiar with anyone who spent any time in the forest. As a true high mountain training course, the circuit wasn't just completed by individual climbers, but also roped up teams. Even the instructions read more like something from an alpine topo than a modern bouldering guide. Re-establish yourself there and cross it to reach the pyramid. Descend its northern ridge and follow the corridor that borders it towards the south. Only a decade later, and it was clear that these circuits had revolutionised font. Do the young climbers know that this creation of circuits is quite recent? It was only 1947 that the first circuit was traced. This is not to say that we no longer practice climbing blocks without looking for a connection between them. Far from it. But it must be recognised that the circuits attract a large part of the climbers of the 50s. Maurice Martin, who wrote this in 1958, was himself the author of one of these early circuits, the Mauve Dame Joanne, potentially still the longest and most exposed circuit in the forest, tackling the largest faces in Blois, the ones that early mountaineers first used to practice their skills. The circuit represents a succession of some 200 climbs, descents and crossings, totaling 1,500 to 2,000 metres of rock. It is an exercise in resistance, but also in the head, because falls are bad. The 76 numbered problems that form the circuit were repainted 2 years ago. So if you fancy a historical tick and a big day out in the forest, it's ready if you are. Unlike these original circuits, most have done away with the no touching the ground rule, and you'll certainly get some weird luts if you and a mate rope up for a lap of any of them. But they're still an essential part of the climbing culture. They're repainted as they fade and new ones are created. As the colours of the circuits have become more cohesive throughout the forest, the bright little dots also act as a good marker of general difficulty, even when just climbing 1 or 2 problems. As anyone who's tried can attest, the grades of individual problems rarely captures the overall difficulty, but some are strikingly hard on paper too. The white at Basse Trouvier is relatively short, but creates together some seriously hard classics, things such as Carnage and La Bélezina. And the speed record's under 20 minutes. Another infamous circuit is the Black at Cuisinière. This wasn't climbed in a day until 2017 by Nale Hukataivo. A lot of the difficulties come down to the final problem, the brutal 8A slab, Joël. And while the difficulties of individual problems has been constantly pushed in Font, the difficulties of circuits, much less so. But Charles Albert doesn't exactly conform. And recently he created a circuit of his own, starting at the same point as Burnet's original and also never touching the ground, but this time with difficulties up to 8B+. Details were somewhat sparse, so I reached out to him to get more information. I was intrigued to find out about the length of it, some of the classic boulders that were involved, and also the challenges in creating such a physically and technically demanding circuit that never touches the ground. There were about 15 boulders from 7A to 8B+, but there were also easy or hard parts to link the boulders together. The classics are Cheops, 8B, Bazet Volé, Noir Désir, and Haute Tension, 7C. The other ones were also famous, but not super classics. There were difficult down climbs and traverses and jumps, but not always to reach the start of a boulder. I chose to eliminate the proper starts of the boulders if it is counterintuitive to reach them. Many times I jump on a face and skip the beginning of a climb. Of course, there were amazing problems and jumps I could not include because it would have required to make loops or contrive sections. For example, down climbing a problem to reach the starting holds, then extruding from the climb the holds you just used. When creating a circuit where you don't or rarely touch the ground, the connection between problems is more important than their individual beauty or quality. It took me an afternoon to have a general idea of the path, but it took me a few months to test it and set the final version. Charles has yet to climb the circuit in a 1, instead using it as a place to go sessioning, but I think it's exciting to see where this style of climbing can be pushed. So, what about outside of their native Fontainebleau? Where else have circuits spread? Well, I don't know of anywhere else that's taken them on to quite the same degree, certainly not painting the numbers on boulders. But quite a few guidebooks contain circuit lists for popular trads, and I was trying to think if there was anywhere else where a circuit had a level of name recognition that it might infont. One that might get close to this, and local to where I grew up, is the Chipouy-Douaine Alternative Circuit. Similar to a Font circuit, the grades might not strike you as incredibly hard, but with 50 problems, and many of them highbrow enough to also be given a root grade, it's a serious feat. Apparently the Dumbarton Black circuit is relatively well known locally also. A short but punchy circuit at a famously tough track. I'd recommend checking out Matt Wright's video to see what that's about. All of that got me thinking. It's one thing to delve into the history of circuits, but before I can argue that they're an underrated style of climbing that more of us should do, I should probably make one myself. In the meantime, I recommend subscribing. Now, somehow, despite having spent most of my time here in Poland sport climbing, Zimny Dół has become like the main supporting actor on this channel. And for this circuit making idea, it fit really well. But I have been informed by multiple people that my previous video made Zimny Dół look much better than it is. So, a heads up, it's a often low ball, mostly drop off, painful limestone bouldering track. Don't go expecting font. But I do kind of really enjoy it still. So, off we go. With a long list of boulders to check out, I headed to Zimny to whittle these down and figure out a pleasant route through the woods. We're down at the bottom of the valley because I thought here's where it holds the most moisture. It's not as popular. If anything really needs a good scrub, it's going to be here. And I don't know if I'm up to this scrubbing. I don't have a ladder or a rope. I've only got 2.5 hours of sunlight left and done nothing, so I don't think I'm going to get any of these green today. They're also borderline if they're worth it for the circuit. We'll see. Let's go climb on some blocks and labyrinth and decide which problems are going to make the cut. Raining. What is this? Very loud thunder. And the rain's coming. There's also a ridiculous amount of falling acorns. But I hoped 5+ here would be a nice addition to the lower end. It looks a bit rubbish. While I fell on the last move and failed to film some others nearby, a couple extra ones done by lamplight, plus what I already knew, helped me figure out the first 10 or so. I decided those first canyon bowls I checked out weren't going to be included. They were almost never dry, and I would like it to be a circuit that other people can repeat. Look at that, just got another one. Here. Starting easy, I went for the font 4 or 5 slab, but it was certainly Fontest in its grading. And then to the 6B Plus next door, which also put up quite a fight. Luckily, it wasn't all about ascending, it was about testing the quality and trying the moves on the harder ones. As long as I knew what I was doing, I hoped that would be enough. I didn't realise it when testing, but this cave actually provides the unique chance to do some multi-pitch bouldering. You top out 2 boulders on the other side of the block into the cave, so when topping out one you can climb one of the boulders in the cave, and then repeat for the harder 2. With the final boulders and labyrinth tested, it was over to the other side of the valley, where I found one of my new favourites in Zimny, Dlat Annie, on some of the best rock there. with the final list made, it was time to try to do the circuit in at 1. I was joined by Aleksander.
And limestone climbs are tough.
And we arrived to a trad as busy as I've ever seen it. Every boulderer and their dod was there. But it was good scenes, so it was time for the challenges of the circuit and convincing Aleksander that chimney wasn't totally choss.
Come on. Yeah. Nice.
Feels nails. First foot, then a little drop knee on this. Over here and over here for the treads.
Easy.
I don't remember where the hooks are.
Oh! Come on! You can do it!
Uy!
Ole! 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 Come on! O, to będzie ciekawe. It's okay.
Perfect picture. Yeah.
I was slipping constantly. Placement and off. And off.
Nice.
The right one?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the proper way?
Oh, it's the old school.
Old school, okay.
And to the cave.
Nice.
You did?
It's not, yeah.
The story is about the Złotopolscy. Yeah, I just try to do the Złotopolscy and that's it. It was a 7C and I spent plenty of time on this and I need to warm up.
So you just did these first ascents?
Yeah, so I create I do plenty of boulders in Zimny Dół because I just need to warm up. After this there was around, I don't know, 40 boulders.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly around 7A or below, because for more warm up they are good, yeah. And then the bouldering became popular in Poland, so I do a lot of them. Most of them are not mine, yeah. There was several guys who just explore Zimny Dół.
With the boulders and labyrinth done, why not add a couple more to the day? So we checked out Przemysław's newest find, Lewy Pośladek. Left and right buttock for the non-Polish speakers.
Nice. Nice. But you know what is nice, that they end at the top.
Yeah, this is always a big bonus.
Big bonus for the Zimny Dół especially.
Yeah.
The funny thing was that I came here several years, and I don't know the rocks at the other side.
Two!
While the order of the boulders was mainly chosen just to be as logical as possible, I also could have started the circuit on this side of the valley. But I kind of liked the idea of having a final sting in the tail. And with 22 being a big highball, and 24, the final boulder, being a fight on slick limestone slopers, two boulders I hadn't repeated since doing them a while before, I certainly wasn't confident that it was in the bag, even when I approached these feeling quite good. After topping out with my arm cramping up, I wasn't approaching forward super confidently, especially when I had no memory of the beta I'd used months before the one time I had climbed it.
Nice move.
Because this heel is a long way.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 minutes, I'm gonna grab my lights.
Come on. You think you can recover from the second cut loose?
I don't know, every time it feels like close enough that I should try, but then afterwards, yeah, maybe I should just drop.
What happened?
Cramp.
Okay.
I told you it would be a hard final boulder.
Yes.
It's like
indeed.
brutal to have. I was feeling good up until this point, and then you're like, oh shit, yeah, I have climbed a lot of boulders today.
Yeah. I don't have forearms big enough to get a cramp there. Yeah.
Okay, can you pass me a head torch?
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Great. Great scent. Great scent.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, the campus beta was the one.
Yeah, I just had to figure that out and then it went quite quick. Oh. Well, I'm happy that I had to fight for it at the end, you know? In some way it's nice that I had to try really hard.
Yeah.
And,
I get it.
these were my, because I was making tie-dye things, these were gifts from my wife for Christmas. These were my workshop shoes in the UK.
No, I was just going to ask what are your final thoughts on Zimny Dół?
Chassis.
Chassis?
Super chassis.
Super chassis.
Super chassis limestone, Zapovs.
Good first impression.
Yeah.
And the grading?
Sandbagged. Super sandbagged.
Yeah.
One thing I really like about this style of climbing is you can really tune it to your level depending on how much preparation you put in. For me, I had to prep more because I had to decide what the circuit was, but it was kind of ideal having checked out a lot of moves but not actually finished quite a lot of the boulders, or having done the boulders months previously and not totally remembering the beta. It really made it a bit of an extra challenge, where I think if I'd gone out, got them all totally dialed, it wouldn't have been so bad, and that would have been somewhat anticlimactic. A big thank you to Aleksander for coming out and filming and being so supportive, especially at the end of the day on Fallen. And maybe this has inspired you to try something different in your own climbing. But for me to feel like I've really created this Zimny circuit, not just written down a list and ticked them off myself, I felt like there was one more thing I should really do. So here we have it, the Zimny Dół Black Circuit Bouldering Guide. Now this isn't necessary. It's not necessary for the video, and it's not necessary if you want to try this circuit. I'm going to have a list on my website of all the boulders in the circuit, as well as someone you can contact me if you do want one of these, or just send me a message on Instagram. But I just want to make a nice physical thing. I think a lot of us really like, magazines, guidebooks. Often you can get them online, but it's really nice to have a physical thing, especially when care's gone into making it. I've tried to lay this out really interestingly and have really nice photos so that it's really clear and easy to use. The map, as well as the topos, makes navigating around Zimny easier than if you're just using, say, 27 crowds. Even when you're trying other boulders that aren't in this circuit. If you are trying this circuit, you have a list of the boulders and you can tick them off, whether you're trying it on one day or this is just acts as a to-do list of, in my opinion, the best boulders up to 7A at Zimny Dół to try. It's in English and Polish throughout. And there's a surprise bonus spread at the end of extra things, because I didn't need any more space for topos, so bonus secret pages. As I say, this isn't necessary, but if you want a nice thing, I'm not trying to make money with it, just want to cover the cost of printing it nicely. That's all. If you're in Krakow, it's going to be a few 20s worth or something. So anyway, if you want one, link in the description or Instagram, and I don't know, I'd appreciate the support, not like monetarily, just to make me feel better about the amount of time I spent making this thing. Because I think it was objectively dumb thing to do. Yeah, thanks for getting this far. See you in the next one. It won't be as long away, promise. It's already in the words. It's like, good deal I did. So yeah, it won't be as long.